Okay, so this is session is about celebrating achievement with the EAL Quality Mark, and what we're going to do is share one school's experience of the EAL Quality Mark and the wonderful things that it does that led us to give them a gold EAL Quality Mark and invite them along. So first of all, I just need to say, what is the EAL Quality Mark? It's something that we designed 6 years ago when we were working with a local authority, working with all of its schools on EAL issues. One of the things that came up was that there was some really good practice there and there was some not very good practice, and nobody in the local authority knew which was which. So we had a mechanism for judging schools with, but one that involved self-assessment and self-judgment to start with. So the EAL Quality Mark is a series of questions to ask yourself about how good you are. So I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. I said, well, 2 schools we hope today. Sadly, one of them can't be here. If you've got questions, put them in the chat and we'll try and answer everything by the end. We have it, for those of you who aren't in the UK or those of you who are watching the recording abroad somewhere, in both UK and international school versions, because there are differences, subtle differences we want to take account of. It's got 3 sections. One's on leadership management, one's on teaching and learning, one's on parents and community. Overall, there are 22 criteria, 7 on leadership management, 10 on teaching and learning, 5 on parents and community. And they're all at bronze, silver, and gold level. And we ask you to just highlight which one it is so we can see where you think you are. And then we come and visit. We ask you to send us evidence in advance that we can look at. But the most important thing is actually being in the school and getting a feel of what it's like. So when they're there, we talk to staff, we talk to parents, and most importantly, we talk to pupils about what they feel. We do a short learning walk. We talk to you a bit about your self-assessment, and we make a decision and give you feedback, however good you are, on what might be better. We send you a certificate and a logo to put on your website. If you're gold, we blog about you to celebrate that gold award. Sometimes we blog about silver, where there's a school that's not gold, but there's something it does that we think it's doing really, really well and that we ought to share. And then, of course, we invite you along to the webinar. So Karen, as I said, can't be with us. And I now hope that we've resolved Miriam's sound problem. And Miriam Al-Alousi, who's the EAL lead at Laurance Haines School in Watford. I will ask shortly. Just say, I went to both of these schools in more or less the same week in June. It was 5 days between the 2 visits. And just to see 2 schools, that wonderful EAL in that period of time is very, very heartening.
I'm Miriam Al-Alousi. I'm really proud to be the bilingual provision lead here at Laurance Haines. We've had 85% of our cohort are bilingual. We are a sister school across the trust. We're part of the IMAT trust. We have 3 schools currently within our trust. And we're working at the minute across the schools to improve our bilingual provision for our EAL children. All of our schools have a similar makeup and percentages of bilingual children. And fundamentally, we've also got a huge EDI focus at the minute. So we've done a lot of work over the last few years on equality, diversity and inclusion. And as part of that, we really use that as a springboard for our bilingual provision as well. So our motto here at Laurance Haines is, you see me, hear me, I belong. And that came out of a lot of work that we've done in the last few years about diversifying our curriculum. So it's in every single thread of our school. Our curriculum has been diversified. Our school plan includes equity, diversity and inclusion. We have a staff forum. We're doing a lot of work around, especially in particular, the protected characteristics. We held our first International Day a couple of years ago. And that really was the springboard of launching our new kind of core value of you see me, you hear me, I belong. And within that really is the principle that every child at our school and across our trust feels like they belong. And obviously, with 85% of the cohort being bilingual, a huge part of that is their language. So it was a really nice get together after COVID. It was a bringing together of our community and of really, celebrating our diversity. We speak so many languages here. We speak over 45 languages are represented within our school community, across the staff, across our SLT, and across our children. So ensuring that the children felt like that their language was part of their identity and that they didn't have to leave their language at the door, regardless of, what level of English provision that they were, regardless of what level of English proficiency they were at. They know that when they come to school, their language will be welcome and their identity will be valued. This is the little snippet from a newspaper article that was published just after we got the Gold Award, which we were really, really proud of. And although it doesn't, matter if you've got the award or not, because what matters is what you're providing for those bilingual children. It was great to have Graham come and just, acknowledge all the hard work that we've put in for those children and for our community. Let me move to the next slide. Hopefully this works. Right. So what we do, so I'm going to briefly go over just some of the things that we do here at Laurance Haines. So all of our children have been assessed in English proficiency between A to E. So we assess all of our bilingual children, and the DFE guidance for EAL is very far-reaching, going from whether they speak a home language to whether they're even exposed to a home language at home. And I think sometimes people forget that that's, a huge difference. You could have like a third generation child, like I'm half German myself. My children speak English at home, but they are exposed to German through me and their grandmother. So that, although they're not exposed to it as much as, say, if both of the parents were speaking it, their level of English is therefore higher. So I think that any school that has a bilingual provision has to take that into account, because you could have a completely new child to the country who doesn't speak a word of English, whose parents don't speak a word of English, or then who is classed as EAL, compared to a child that's been here, whose family have been here for several generations, and perhaps they're exposed to another language through their grandparents. There is a vast difference in the provision that you would offer those children. So we started off by looking at the Bell Foundation language assessment, but we found that it wasn't right for us as a school. It was taking too long, but we used strands of it and developed our own English proficiency test, which takes about 10 minutes per child. So any child that comes new to the school will be assessed with their English, and that information gets passed over to the class teacher. We have we're really lucky in that we have a community support worker within our school. She works part-time and she carries out all of the language assessments, but that goes in tandem with her reaching out to the community. So she is Portuguese herself. We advertised that role for somebody specifically who would be bilingual. Well, it was our preference that somebody spoke one of our key languages. Part of our school community, we have a huge number of our children are Portuguese, and for example, we found recently that community was, although we knew that there were lots of Portuguese speakers, they didn't really know each other. So for example, she started a WhatsApp group for them. We run coffee mornings for them, and it's really helped kind of bring them together and for the children to know each other outside of school as well, which has helped their confidence. This little snippet here at the bottom that you can see, that is a snippet of something that we developed at our school called our bilingual proforma. that gets sent out at the start of the school year to all the class teachers and the support staff, and every class. So we list all of our EAL children within that, and specifically we use the Bell Foundation classroom strategies to come up with some quick targets for them that the teachers and the support staff can utilize within the classroom. So you'll see here, they're nothing overly complicated. The teacher will mainly set a target, whether it's speaking or writing. So obviously, if a child is completely new to English and they're A, we'll try and develop that English language first. So their targets might be an intervention where they're talking talking within the classroom and trying to use English a little bit more. Or it could be where we have children that speak the same language, we will pair them together. So a great example of that is last year within my class, we had a new child that spoke Urdu, and one of the other children within the class said, oh, I can understand and I can speak bits of Urdu, but I'm Hindi, but she will understand me if I speak Hindi. So I put those children together, and it worked wonders. He was able to translate absolutely everything. And that what was really nice about that example was that child used their autonomy to say, I can support that child, and he was really proud of doing that. And what was also really crucial there was that his own English was to a high standard. He was completely fluent with English, so he was modeling that good use of English the whole time to that child, and that in part helped that child make accelerated progress within their English within their first year. He went from an A to a C in English proficiency within the space of an academic year, which was amazing progress. What we also do is we use Google Translate within the classroom. So how that works is in early years where they have the iPads, where they're using Tapestry, the teachers have downloaded Google Translate and they will use it to speak to children in their home language where they're new to English. As I mentioned, we also encourage and promote the use of the home language within the classroom. And I think, honestly, that's really been one of the most effective things that we've brought in. Where we have new children that come into nursery, and when they do the transition to reception, we mix them within their language groups, and we ensure that, say, if we have like 5 Urdu or Portuguese speakers within one class and maybe 2 in another, we'll try and include a mix so that those languages are represented within both classrooms or within one class, because what is important for those children is that they know that they can stick together, they've got their community within our community, and we really encourage that, and it's really lovely to see, like, if you walk through the school throughout the school day, you'll hear snippets of one language, snippets of another language, and we would, even our staff will speak in their home languages with those children that understand it. All of our classrooms have the use of a laptop, and those are specifically for our bilingual children to use. So the children, what we realized, especially within Key Stage 2, is where children weren't communicating, sorry, I've lost my words, where children weren't able to communicate because they were completely new to English, we were seeing some behavioral issues at times, because it came from a lack of frustration at not being able to communicate themselves and to speak eloquently or to communicate their needs. So where we've used the laptops, and we give the children autonomy over that. So we'll, I don't know, an example might be that we're doing a research topic and, they're working within a group, but by using the laptop, they can Google within their home language, and then, use Google Translate to translate it as well. Where children as well are new to English, and where they are able to write in their home language, we encourage that they use their home language within, say, their English. So an example where that was really successful was we had a boy who came over from Venezuela. He was that was his English proficiency. He was completely new to the country, completely new to the language, we didn't have another child within that year group that spoke Spanish. He's actually working at a greater depth level. He's incredibly intelligent. And, you know, we were seeing lots of frustration, lots of kind of arguments coming out of that, where he was so frustrated that he couldn't work to the ability that he was used to. And the biggest frustration for him was writing. So I sat down with him and I said, look, you can write in Spanish, we don't mind. And, you know, at the start of whatever English unit we were doing at the start of the year, he was writing completely in Spanish. And then throughout the year, you could see that he was starting to feed in English words within his writing. And then towards the end of the year, he was solely using English. And again, he made accelerated progress. So, you know, that was a real success story, where because writing then wasn't his fear anymore, because he knew that he was safe to use his language, and then use English where he felt comfortable. With the introduction as well of AI, that's been a real benefit. In our school, we've got access to TeachMate AI, which has been an absolute godsend for, you know, our bilingual provision. It generates translated things, it generates differentiated comprehensions and things like that. So that's just something else that we've done as well. These pictures are from our Twitter feed. If you're interested, you can look me up on Twitter. I tweet quite a lot about our bilingual provision. This was my class a couple of years ago. This picture here of these two boys, that was I don't know, that really warmed my heart, because these boys, this little boy is from Romania and this little boy was the Spanish boy that I was talking about, and they were communicating with each other, you know, and they were Googling words, what the topic words meant in each of their home languages. And it really kind of showed that, you know, giving the children that autonomy and that freedom was helping them, and they were learning within their own pace, but, you know, they were communicating with each other, and it was just so lovely. It was a lovely a lovely moment shared between them, of when they were sharing you know, conversations about their home language. Our library has lots of bilingual texts. The money that we raised from International Day, we've used to purchase dual language text. And initially we thought that the children would only take out books in their home languages, but what we found is that they're taking out books in all languages, because they're showing a real love of languages. They're showing a real keen interest in learning languages across the board, which is really lovely. This is our link, but this is an example of what was in a child's link book. So the children go home and they read, and he shared in his link book that he'd read in his home language of Italian as well. There he is bringing in, he absolutely loved reading. I mean, this boy devoured about 9 books a week. It was incredible, and across languages. But I think these pictures show that, you know, language is really at the core of our language is at the core of what we do, and it's celebrated across the board. Yeah. Impact. I think, you know, as a teacher and as, you know, as a school, you look at, well, why are we doing this? What's the reason behind it? And I think, you know, these two are examples of children that a year and a half previously had come completely new to our country. So they did not speak a word of English. This work here on the left, that was particularly amazing for me, because this child, she spoke Urdu, and she didn't know how to read the language, so we weren't able to help her in terms of giving her translated material. It was all kind of through speaking, but through everything that we did with the use of, you know, visuals, the use of modeling that high standards of English, she was able to go from completely new to English to working towards by the end of year 4. So, and she joined us at the start of year 3. So, you know, I think that was incredible progress for a child that you know, didn't speak the language a year and a half earlier. Again, here, this was another child who was completely new to English, and a year and a half later, you know, he's writing quite eloquently in English, and, you know, made incredible progress. Our bilingual data shows that our bilingual children tend to make accelerated progress more so than a non-bilingual child. And our children are not only making progress, but also making between 10 to 20%, depending on the subject, are making accelerated progress in our subjects. And actually in writing it was the highest, which is something that we're really proud of, because, you know, from speaking to other schools, from speaking to other EAL leads, I think writing is a big challenge in areas for schools, because, you know, how do you support a child that doesn't speak the language? Yeah, that's our story. Stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Miriam. It was brilliant. One of the things you said at the end reminded me that when I started being an EAL teacher, the technology was dictionaries. And dictionaries are clunky, difficult to work with. And for some students, actually reading through the range of things a word could mean was too difficult. And then we got Google Translate, which was great, except it was often wrong. Now we have a range of translation tools that are very good, that can deal with quite sophisticated things. And you just reminded us there's something even more amazing in terms of technology, which is the opportunities that AI gives us.
Yeah, it's been a real advantage.
Yeah, a much better world. Can I just ask you how about the way that your pupils use translation tools?
Yeah, I mean, I think mainly it's because they've got the use of the bilingual laptops within class. So they literally just go on to Google Translate, and, you know, that this works. Obviously, the child has to know how to write in their home language and read in their home language. So it's worked particularly well within Key Stage 2. But as I mentioned, in Key Stage 1, where you have a phone or an iPad, you can literally talk into Google Translate, and then Google Translate will talk to the child. And it's been, you know, obviously there's mistakes within the language, which is hilarious at times. But it works so well, because that takes away that frustration for that child, and that child, you know, feels seen and heard.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody is doing some research into whether the shift in the technology impacts on what we call the silent period, where it's very hard for some children to start speaking. They're too nervous. They're learning all the time and absorbing, but I mean, what we know is that that silent period might last a day, it might last 6 months. Just wondering if the technology is possibly reducing the silent period, and the 6 months will be less frequent in future.
Perhaps, yeah. That's a good question. Somebody will have to do some research.
Yeah, because you're not as in the dark as you were, because there are things that bring light in a way that we didn't used to have. Okay, have we got any questions for Miriam?
No, can I just say that Miriam works in our trust. I'm James, I lead the trust, and she's absolutely inspiring work across the trust, leading training across the trust. It's not just at Laurance Haines. So I'm very proud of you, watched and listened. But yeah, the link up with the EAL Academy has been brilliant. But it's not just in school. Miriam's passion runs across our trust, and it's fantastic.
Thank you, James.
And Miriam, of course, also has done our extended 6-month EAL course.
Yeah.
I hope that helped. Okay, if we haven't got any questions, I'm just going to do one little thing before we close, we haven't got a second speaker, which is to share with you a little bit of the EAL Handbook, which we actually originally wrote when we were working in the local authority, where we came up with the idea of the quality mark. So it's 100 pages of this is what to do in whatever circumstances, with some strategic advice and some more detailed classroom strategy advice. So if I can find the right bit, I'm just going to share this page with you, which is conditions for learning for newly arrived learners of EAL. So we've got 3 sections here, different strategies to meet different objectives. So one of the first things we want to do is just make that learner feel comfortable and valued and secure. Because if they're not going to learn much. They're not going to be taking part in activities with other children, which is where they learn a lot of the language they need. So what can we do to enable them to feel included? If they're sitting near the front of the room, they know that the teacher has got an eye on them, is looking after them. If the school has display all around, it has books that say, yep, we cater for people like you. If there are things in other languages, if you're able to use your own language, you feel included. It might take you longer when you're new to English to finish things. You might find it very helpful to be in a group, in collaborative work, where there is support from people who might understand your language, but might not, and might just know that talking to you a lot will help you. If you're working in groups, having particular roles. So I don't think a new arrival is going to be great at reporting back, but they're just as good at anybody else as being at the timekeeper, and they're included. Make sure that they can see things. If you're demonstrating something, make sure that near the front nobody can see. A really well-organized buddy system is great. My view is that actually 2 buddies is good, one that shares the language and one that doesn't. So one of them you're going to be exposed all the time, and the other one you'll be able to say what you want all the time. You'll be exposed to the language all the time in one case, and in the other case, you can talk to someone without having to worry about getting your English wrong. Being able to pronounce the name properly and getting everybody to do it is really, really important. So how do we gauge progress when we have this thing called a silent period that can last for up to 6 months, usually not that long? But how do you know that they're following or how well they're doing? Smiling really, really helps. Smiling and being patient helps. Structure listening activities. So sometimes, for example, tick charts for keywords. Traffic lights. A green card, a red card, and an amber card. So people can instantly tell you if they get it or if they're struggling. Lots of other uses for traffic lights, but that's a good one with new arrivals. If you're asking a direct question, if it's got a yes or no answer, they're more likely to engage an answer. Doing lots of concrete activities. So if you're classifying things, have pictures that you can move around and put into different piles or into different columns. Some schools still struggle, and I know that Miriam School is a brilliant example of one that's at the other end of that spectrum, with pupils using their first languages in their learning. It's really important that they can. Many whiteboards can be helpful. A plan for active learning, observe the pupil is 2 separate but very important things. So it's got to be something that engages, even if you don't know the language. And the best form of assessment is generally observation, rather than setting another test to check their English. See what they're understanding just by observing, and listen as they start to speak English. Then we've got, making the curriculum accessible. So they can understand something, they can get the gist, even if they can't get everything. Have a way of activating the prior knowledge. Your new arrival may have learnt this already in another language. They may have learnt rather more, particularly if it's a secondary school and we are looking at science and maths and they've come from another part of Europe. They may well have actually learnt some of these things already. Make sure that your examples are diverse and therefore inclusive. Can't overemphasize the importance of the visual. Pictures, realia, videos, very good. If you have got the luxury of support and time, pre-teaching something before you have to deal with it in the classroom helps. If you've got a presentation, make sure that your new arrival's got a copy of it, because they can take it away. They can look at it if they want to reflect on something in the lesson. It's really useful. It's an easy thing to do that not everybody needs, but for a new arrival, it's incredibly helpful. So I hope that's helpful. There are lots of things like that in the handbook, if you haven't seen it. It's over 100 pages, and there's lots of very good advice.
How do you manage to assess the EAL pupils' level of English in 10 minutes? We've devised a really quick assessment because we have found that you don't need to have, an hour-long assessment with the children. We found that quite quickly because, so for example, part of the test is like showing them a simple picture and then getting them to talk about it. So it's like showing them like a picture from a book or a picture, and just saying, can you tell me about this? And within that, they can either tell you a lot or they can tell you very few things. So obviously with a new to English child, we might say, can you tell me these colors? Can you pick out, or we might give them some objects and say, can you pick out the red duck or the orange, something orange. And then that will give you a good understanding of how much they're understanding. Because sometimes they will point at the picture, like you might say, oh, can you show me what where the man is walking, and they might point at it, and that way you can you get an understanding of maybe their understanding is higher than their speaking, and that will give us a good assessment of what they can do. And then that's kind of the speaking and listening part of it, and obviously the writing that comes out in your English or your writing lessons. And then I think what has worked the most within our school is that by just picking out key things, like the highest leverage point of what that child needs to develop, you don't want cognitive load is a huge thing within our school. So we're constantly thinking, are we overloading the children mentally? Are we overloading our teachers? Are we overloading our support staff? So by picking out one strand and focusing on one strand at a time. So for example, a child that is English proficiency A, you might be just developing speaking, and you might just be doing that, giving them a simple target, like getting them to say, can I go to the toilet, or can I go get my water, and then building on from that. Whereas a child that's, for example, at D, you might be giving a target to do with their vocabulary within their writing. So that's really what we as a school have found is most effective for us. But I know other schools like to do the whole proficiency test, but time is a big factor in that, because we've got a lot of bilingual children that we needed to assess, and we found that by doing that worked best for us, and then that feeds into that bilingual pro forma that I was speaking about. But we work on maximum kind of 2 targets at a time. I hope that answers your question.
You might just add to that as today's final word, if you haven't got any more questions. How do you manage to assess a pupil's literacy in their first language, a language which you don't know, in 10 minutes? Because I think you can. And I think it's quite easy most of the time. Occasionally it doesn't work, mostly it works. Which is that one of the joys of the world we live in now, as opposed to the EAL one I started in, is that you can find a text in any language and present it to your new arrival to read. I think you can use sign language to get them to read it aloud if you haven't got an interpreter there, so they can do it. A fluent reading sounds pretty much the same in any language. You might not understand it because you don't know the language, but you know whether they're reading fluently or not. You know whether they're stumbling. You know whether they can just pick it up and tell you what's there, read it clearly. The same applies to writing. You might need a translator and interpreter to explain the task, but if you ask them to do a short piece of writing, whether it's how did you get here this morning, what was your favorite thing about your last school, and you just watch them writing. And again, if they pick up a pen, they know what to do with it. That's a good start. If they write something fairly quickly and hand it to you, that tells you they're quite good at writing. If they stumble, if they keep crossing things out, if they look like they're really struggling, you know there's less literacy in the first language. And you can do that without understanding their language, because as a teacher, you are an expert in reading and writing. And you're an expert in reading and writing, even if you don't realize it, beyond just reading and writing in English. So use the gift that you have. Okay, thanks. I think we're going to close now. So thank you all for coming. Thank those of you who didn't come, but we're going to watch the video online later. And thank you most of all to Miriam. That was a really great presentation.